And what I'm about to tell you happened 4 years ago, back in 2021. I was 14 then. Just a regular high school kid living in a quiet suburb of Australia. Nothing strange ever really happened where I lived. Until that one cold, rainy morning. It was winter, which is rare for us to actually feel in my town. That morning the sky was heavy and gray. The streets were shiny with rainwater, the kind that soaks into your shoes no matter how fast you walk. I pulled my hoodie tight and started the 15-minute walk to my bus stop. Usually, I loved the quiet. Birds, the distant sound of cars, the smell of wet earth after rain. But that day, something felt wrong. I couldn't explain it. It was like a weight pressing on my chest, a whisper in the back of my head saying, "Turn around." Every step felt heavier. Even the air felt different, colder, thicker. When I reached the corner, I noticed something strange. The road was empty. Usually, by that time, there'd be neighbors jogging, a few cars passing, and a couple of other students waiting at the stop. But that morning, nothing. Just silence. I finally got to the bus stop and looked around. Empty. Not a single soul. At first, I thought maybe I was early. I checked my phone. Nope. I was actually a few minutes late. My bus hold. We already been there. The drizzle turned into heavier rain. I shoved my hands in my pockets and tried to distract myself, scrolling aimlessly on my phone, pretending everything was fine. But that feeling, that uneasiness, just wouldn't go away. Then, I heard it. The slow hum of an engine. I looked up and saw headlights cutting through the fog. An old, white minibus rolled slowly toward the stop and came to a stop about 10 meters away from me. It looked strange. The kind of vehicle you'd see in old movies. Rust spots on the sides, cracked bumper, and every single window covered with thick, dirty curtains. I couldn't see inside. Then, the driver leaned forward. He was an older man, maybe late 50s or early 60s. Gray beard, wrinkled skin, old clothes that looked like he'd slept in them. He didn't look like a bus driver. He didn't even look like he belonged there. Our eyes met for a second. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just stared. I quickly looked away, pretending to check the bus schedule again, but my hands were shaking. The rain made the world blur around me, and I remember thinking, please, just let my bus come. When I finally glanced up again, he was still staring at me, not moving, not blinking. A faint smile crept across his face, slow and unnatural, before disappearing just as quickly. I felt my stomach drop. I told myself, maybe he was just lost. Maybe he was waiting for someone. But then I noticed something. There was no bus number, no school logo, not even a license plate in the front. And he was alone. Completely alone. I looked down the road again. Still no sign of my school bus. Just me. And that van. And that man. Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. The rain kept falling harder. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then, the van started to move. Slowly, creeping forward. At first, I thought he was going to drive past, but he didn't. He stopped even closer this time, maybe 5 meters away. And then, click. The sound of his door unlocking echoed through the rain. That single sound sent a chill through my spine. He tilted his head, whoosed slightly, like he was studying me. And in that moment, I knew something was horribly wrong. I stepped back. My shoes splashed in the puddle. He opened his door, just a few inches. I could see the inside dark, messy, filled with boxers and a faint smell of oil drifting out. Then, in the distance, I saw headlights. My heart leapt. My school bus was finally coming. Without thinking, I sprinted forward, waving like a maniac. The bus slowed down, brakes screeching as I ran toward it. When I reached the door, I turned my head one last time. The man froze his hand still on the door. He stared at me for a long second and then slowly closed the door. The van rolled backward and drove off in the opposite direction. When I got on the bus, I was shaking so hard I could barely tap my card. The driver looked at me and said, "You all right, mate?" I just nodded. I didn't want to talk. I sat near the window, watching the rain slide down the glass. As we drove past, Prometta looked back, and the white minibus was gone. That was the last time I ever used that bus stop. From that day on, I walked to a different one, even though it was farther away. Weeks passed, and I tried to forget it, but every time I closed my eyes, I'd see that faint smile, that blank stare. That sound of the door unlocking. Sometimes, when I pass that road even now, I can almost hear it again. The hum of that old engine, the sound of rain hitting the roof, and that quiet, heavy feeling in my chest telling me he was waiting for me. And I still wonder what would have happened if my bus hadn't shown up when it did. Thumbnail prompt for a 3D realistic animation. A dark, rainy street at dawn. A young boy stands under a flickering streetlight, clutching his backpack. A creepy, old white minibus with fogged windows and drawn curtains is parked nearby headlights, glowing faintly through the mist. The boy looks frozen with fear as rain pours around him. Title suggestions: The White Minibus, a true horror story if my bus hadn't come that morning. The Man in the Van, a chilling real story. Hashtag true horror story. Hashtag creepy encounters. Hashtag rainy night horror. Hashtag real life horror. 3-jar narration. Hashtag scary tallies. Hashtag horror animation. Hashtag 7-minute story.